I am praying that the video is not chopped because I tried to do a test recording just to see if I set up my microphone properly. Hopefully, it's not muted this time around. The audio was lagging, the video was lagging, everything was going against me. And I think this is the universe, the patriarchy trying to silence me. But I refuse to stay silenced. I have a voice and I'm going to use it. And without further ado, hello everyone. Welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. Guys, I I don't know in what mentality I'm approaching today's episode because life is testing me and I have not prepped for this exam. Neither have I prepped for my other exam that is in 2 weeks. Because like now when I'm writing my thesis, I have way less classes on campus. So because my days I just spend working, and mind you, I worked the entire day and the entire day prior to that and prior to that and prior to that, and I'm working the entire day tomorrow, which I know for all of us it's like a common thing, but I am exhausted. So if I struggle to make any sense, I apologize. But now when I have way less time on campus, my weeks feel way less structured. They feel way more repetitive. And my concept of time is out the window. Like, what do you mean it's already March? That is just crazy. That is just outrageous. That is just existential crisis worthy because yours truly's birthday is in March. And if you're new here, you may not know that I really struggle around my birthday. And this year is no exception. But like I mentioned, I don't want to be breadcrumbing and like um whatever, but like I really am struggling this year, but I want to leave everything brewing up now and just explode on the birthday podcast episode. Because guys, it's been a tough week. Like I just want you to conceptualize the fact that I went on a 3-hour walk because I just could not handle being trapped into my mind, into my room when I was supposed to be writing my thesis. But it's okay. It's it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Like that's the thing. Like I may be going through a rut right now. I may be going through like a very difficult period, a very I'm extremely burnt out emotionally, physically, mentally, in any way, shape, or form of my existence. But I may be very negative right now, very pessimistic, but like I just know it in my heart that I'm going to survive and I'm going to make it because I have been able to make it up until now every single time, despite me thinking I will not be able to make it. So, what makes this time different? What would define my inability to make it this time around? Nothing. It's all in my mind, but my mind can be a little bit poisonous, and that's okay. That's okay. I just feel like I'm whatever. You know what? Whatever. Hello, everyone. How are you guys? I by the time you hear this episode when it's released, it's going to be International Women's Day, which also coincides with Mother's Day in Bulgaria. And I know my mom listens to the episode. My mom listens to every single episode. Again, I know I say this all the time, but she listens to every single episode despite not speaking English. And she's like, that's my child. I'm going to support. So, to my mom, честит 8 март, мамо. Честит празник. Обичам те. And to every woman out there, I just want you to know that you are the light of this world. You bring home to houses, you bring beauty, you bring intelligence, you bring soul and heart to everything you touch. And I'm so privileged to be a woman alongside you. And happy International Women's Day. So, guys, today's episode, now that we have gotten like the greetings and the wishes out of the way, I want to rant. But before I rant about every negative thing, let's dive into the fact that today, Mr. Harry Styles released his fourth studio album titled, what is it? Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally? Just occasionally? And I know you may be thinking, oh, didn't you just talk about this like 2 weeks ago when you were criticizing all about him? I'm criticizing the structure surrounding art and how it's becoming such an um, unattainable thing for us common folk. But I love me some Harry Styles. I love his music. And I just want to walk you through my first initial experience with this album because it's been a big privilege to find home, to find shelter in Harry's house. And it felt quite nostalgic leaving that era behind and entering a completely new one. And I have some things to say. So like knowing that the album is going to be released, I became quite nostalgic about all the Harry Styles albums that were out up until like 22 hours ago. And I was listening to them and man, we are so back. I had this period of not listening to him as much as I normally do, but we are so back, soldiers. We are so back. And I may be struggling so much with everything and everyone, and my thesis, and my work, and my university, and finding a job, and finding a purpose in life. But there is sun out, which means that things are going better. That seasonal depression is leaving my body, and it's time for just the regular one to re enter. But that's okay. And another big thing that may not solve all my problems, but solved all my problems today is that Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally is out. And so now there's first a few things I want to talk about before I dive into what I think of the album. I found it so interesting that this album was released at midnight in each time zone. So, for example, people in, I believe, Japan, Australia, they got it first. Then, like, each time zone, like, as midnight reached every region, that album was released. So it was partially released in some parts of the world, partially not. And I find this so incredibly interesting. And also, the thing is, because of the enormity, is that a word? Like the biggest, the what is the word like for large? The noun, like the size, the size, literally the size of the U.S. and Western European market, but predominantly the U.S. market. Because it is that big, a lot of artists, especially artists who tend to create art in the US, like is the case for Harry Styles every now and then, unless he's like chilling in Italy, I guess. Um, they tend to release albums on US schedule. And obviously I know there's different time zones in the US, but like they like generally for them and like us Europeans, and also the same goes for other people who are Eastern from Europe, uh we get the release a day after because this is just how time zones work. And this was one of the first, or like one of the few times I remember me getting an album on the day that was supposed to be the release date. Because, like, for example, I got to listen to the album on the release date of 6th of March. Whereas normally, if it's released on the 6th of March, that means that it will be in Europe on the morning of, like, the day after. So that was very interesting. And I want to say something else about release schedules. I find it so interesting, but also so sad in a way that, so if you're not a Spotify user, you may not know that there is this playlist that Spotify curates every single week, which is called New Music Friday. And as the name suggests, this is a compilation of all the music that was released on Friday or like just this week or like whatever, and it's compiled and it's pushed to users to consume, to familiarize them with new music and expose them to new artists. And because Spotify, I believe it is still the predominant streaming platform globally. Although I know that, for example, a lot of people are boycotting Spotify, which I respect. And I know this may sound weird to someone who uses Spotify to carve out her platform, but whatever, I can still be critical of the things I find useful. So, yeah, Spotify, as far as I'm aware, is still the biggest streaming platform in terms of music, and I don't know if it's in terms of podcasts, but I don't think that will be an unfair assumption to make. So because of this curation of the New Friday music playlist that it's created by Spotify, artists now, and if you've not noticed this, pay attention to it, it is very much a thing. Artists, especially bigger artists, and like we're talking about the global music scene, tend to release music on Thursday or predominantly on Friday, like Thursday evening or Friday morning. And that is because they want to be included in this curated by Spotify playlist so that their music can be shown to as many users as possible. And I find this very interesting, but the reason I find it incredibly sad is because I really just don't think that art should stick to a schedule. And I don't think art should confine itself into, be it schedules, be it genres, be it just expectations of when it's allowed to exist and when it's best for it to exist. To me, that's so incredibly disheartening because the whole process of creating art is so intentional. It is so emotionally deliberate. And if, let's say, I know this may sound weird to you, like if you've never, let's say, created something artistic that you've wanted to put out for a larger public. But if, let's say, the day Tuesday speaks to you, and this is your favorite day of the week, this is the day that carried a meaning in the creation of your art, and you need to hold on from releasing that art form, art piece on the day you want to, because you need to post it on the day that it's going to be pushed to as many people as possible so that it can get as many streams as possible, as many clicks as possible. And I find this so disheartening because that implies that art is now inferior when it comes to algorithms. Art is created for algorithms. And that is why I think we have noticed also in the creation of music that because of platforms like TikTok and Instagram, but predominantly TikTok, music is created in a certain way to make it as catchy as possible, to make it as trendy as possible. And I'm not saying that every song is a TikTok song, but there is definitely an influx of those that is simply undeniable. So I find this interesting. I find this very sad because this means that art is just deprived of another layer of meaning that would have been important to the artist. And because of decreased uh, attention spans, because of this clicking and like a stream being counted only if you've played 30 seconds of a song or whatnot. That's why songs tend to be on the shorter side nowadays. Because songs, for example, even when I was growing up, a regular song used to be 3.5 to 4 minutes. Now, songs at most tend to be 3.5. Obviously, there's exceptions, like there's longer songs, but just the standard of what constitutes art is changing, and it is changing because of social media, because this is where the audiences are, and because as an artist, obviously you don't create art only for the audience, you create art because this otherwise you would combust, um but because you need audiences and audiences attention, and to retain their attention in order to make it a viable product in terms of making money out of it. That's why you stick to those newly developed structures and schemes and criteria of when to release, how to release, what to release. And while this is a smart development in terms of, yes, if you've meet those criteria, that means that your content is going to be pushed out by the algorithm to more people, hence it will be consumed more, and it will be good for you in terms of finances. I find this incredibly sad because it is extremely constraining. And for example, I'm not sure. So I'm going to tell you this story from one of my lectures. I don't know if it is true. I just really don't know. So when I was in media studies, I had this one lecture about the music industry, and it was taught by my favorite teacher who I've been trying to connect with on LinkedIn for months now. And he just refuses to accept my request. And I'm like, damn, sir, we went to teach in an Ivy League school and we forgot our roots. But whatever, he's still my favorite. So yeah, I just think that he was just an extremely captivating speaker, and he was so incredibly knowledgeable. And you can really tell when someone is passionate about something, and when they're talking about it, it's like you can see it on their face, you can see it in their behavior, in their demeanor, and it cannot be helped but be captivating. So his specialty was the music industry, and specifically, he was researching Spotify. He had done some research, I want to say in South Africa, but I'm not sure. And then he was transitioning to researching K-pop culture in South Korea. But doesn't matter. This is absolutely so irrelevant to what I'm about to tell you. But in one of those lectures about the music industry, and because, I studied media studies, and like media is it's all encompassing. It's all art forms, it's all types of media, like everything. When you think about it, everything constitutes as a sort of a medium, but we won't get into that. I promise you. I've, I mean, honestly, I've not been bored by it, because like the more time passes by from when I've graduated from my bachelor, the more captivated I am by the topics we talked about. And I feel like at the time I didn't appreciate them as much, because obviously I had to study them in terms of, oh, I need to remember this for the exam, or I need to discuss this as an essay. And that's the thing, I love studying, but I hate doing exams. I'm not keen on having to write essays. As you can probably tell, I love discussing stuff. I love dissecting everything to the most, like to the atom of it all, but just not in the form of a written academic essay with like theoretical framework and like literature reviews and blah 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 blah. So why the fuck did I mention? Oh yeah, so like yeah, I'm very interested about those stuff, and like the more I think about it, the more captivated I get. So that's why I actually thought of this that I'm about to share with you, that I've been like, I don't know, like blue balling you about for the past 10 minutes. But it's okay, you're used to me by now, because like next week it will be 2 years since we've been together, and I want to thank you all so much. But like that, let's leave this for next week, guys. I'm sorry. I took a nap earlier and I woke up in panic because I started having visions of like these spiders like walking into me and like these spider webs. And this is the second time it's happened to me in 2 weeks. And I don't know why I have these visions. Like it's a state of deliriousness between being awake and dreaming. And it's not fun. Doesn't matter. So, what my teacher said in that lecture was well, what did I want to say? Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about like Spotify Premium. So I have Spotify Premium. I have had Spotify Premium for quite a few years now. So I don't know if the things I'm about to say still hold, but let's assume they do. Or if they don't, assume that this is me telling you that story in 2022. So basically, if you don't have Spotify Premium, you cannot select the order in which a playlist is going to play. It's always on shuffle, there's always ads, and you can skip up to, I believe it was 6 times per hour. And the thing is, the same thing was applicable not just for playlists that you've curated or Spotify has curated for you, but also for albums. So, for example, what let's take Kiss All the Time Disco Occasionally. If I don't have Spotify Premium and press play, they're not going to play in the order in which they were meant to be played at by the artist, aka Harry Styles, and whoever else he collaborated with on the album. I'm sorry, I'm just like really not deep into it yet to be able to tell you who contributed to the album and its creation. And so I'm sorry. I don't mean it as a disrespectful thing. But basically, I just think that this also is why social media and streaming platforms, in that sense, are taking away from the art experience because albums are obviously a compilation of a selection of songs that the artist has created, but the order in which they are organized is, as I've told you before, art is deliberate. So the order is deliberate. It is not just, oh yeah, this just, let's just put it all in and we just figure it out. No, everything is deliberate and it tells a story. And what my teacher said in the story is that when Adele released, I want to say 30, is that her last album? 30 or 25? I believe it's 30. I believe it's 30. That it was extremely well thought out, like in terms of curation of the order in which the songs played. But then because uh, fans, some of the fans did not have Spotify Premium, they didn't get to experience the narration which Adele intended. And from what I remember from that lecture, that could be complete bullshit, but this all obviously always goes for everything I say on this podcast because like sometimes I just do be yapping. I just do be yapping and it's okay. It's okay. That so what my lecturer said is that uh Adele basically revolutionized this shuffling option on Spotify that even if you are non-premium user of the platform and you go to play an album, like the whole album, the album is going to be played not in shuffle, but the songs will be played in order so that you get to experience the deliberateness of the storytelling of the album. And I find this so fascinating because yes, um platforms change art, platforms change the way we consume art, the way we experience art, the art we demand, the art we get. But also, that doesn't mean that we lack completely agency to demand those platforms to not deprive us of the feeling, the emotion of art, or like to deprive us of the meaning of art, and not as only us as audiences have that agency, but also audiences. And I think this is just such a beautiful encapsulation of the collaboration between media and media users, and the fact that we can always, obviously, because it's easy, blame everything on social media, like all our problems, all the developments in terms of art, in terms of culture, in terms of community. We can blame all of it on social media as an external factor and just be like, yeah, my hands are lifted, I have nothing to do with this, I'm just the victim. But that is not really true, because media in and by itself is neither inherently good nor inherently bad. It is a tool that you make use of, and it's about what you make of the media. And I'm not saying that the media is powerless or that the media does not exert any influence in our lives, on our lives, but I'm saying that we're not as agency deprived as we think we are. Because, for example, and this is always my favorite example to give, because I just remember in one of those classes, because I was talking to my friend in class, which I know was very disrespectful, because, like, at our big age of 21, we should know better. When you're in university, you should know better. Like, you're not in high school. Come on. Like, it's just disrespectful to talk in class and like completely disregard the teacher. So I just remember we were talking in class. The teacher just like made a comment, like she criticized us very rightfully so. So, and then we had to give a presentation in that same class. And we went there, we gave a presentation, and obviously, because the teacher felt disrespected by us, because it was fully disrespectful what our behavior was, she started grilling us with questions. And she really thought she just nailed me. Like, she really thought she did something by asking me this question, which she did. The thing is, though, I know my stuff because I am interested in that type of stuff. I research it a lot uh, during my free time because I just find it captivating. I wouldn't have done a degree in this if I didn't find it interesting. Although, let's be for real, like, I didn't do media studies thinking that I would be doing this, because I started doing media studies thinking that it's going to be journalism. It ended up being purely research. But I also fell in love with this, although at times, like, it was my biggest enemy. So my favorite example to give, which is the example I gave during that lecture, when she thought she really like was like, "Ugh, I got her," but she didn't, and she was like, you know what, I'll give you this, like, good job. um Basically, this is what I always say to illustrate that we do not live in a vacuum, and the media we use does not exist in a vacuum either. We are interrelated, and we affect the media as much as the media affects us. And what I mean by that is, so when Twitter started, and I'm talking about Twitter, I'm not talking about X. I don't know how it is on X. I don't use X. I didn't even use Twitter. But back when this example was conceived in my brain is when Twitter happened. And the reason I'm using Twitter is because I'm talking about the history of the platform. So when Twitter started, what you could do to tweet something was you could write, I want to say, 120 characters. And that's why, because it was such a constrained amount of characters for people to express themselves to the extent to that they wanted to. Imagine if this podcast was in the form of tweets. Oh my god, like, every episode will be a book as thick as the Bible, because, like, I just simply don't shut up. So, and the reason uh a lot of slang developed, a lot of abbreviations developed, like LOL or LMAO, laugh my ass off, LMAO, or like some other STFU. Like, the reason such abbreviations developed is because they were accommodated, or like they were incentivized, so to say, by the constrained nature of the characters allowed in a single tweet. And these abbreviations developed in order to communicate as much meaning as possible with as little characters as possible. But because people, users, are not deprived of agency, we are not deprived of the opportunity to influence the platforms that we use. So people were like, these are too few characters, I cannot express myself properly. And they put pressure on the platform. And that is why Twitter developed to accommodate 240 characters, so double what it originally allowed for. And I just find this fascinating because to me, this is the most simplistic but easily comprehensible visualization of the mutual influence of platforms and platform users. Because, for example, even though Twitter still allowed now, back then, more than 120 characters, it accommodated double that. People still use those abbreviations, and those abbreviations are used outside of Twitter. We use them in our everyday language, in our everyday chatting, and to save time, to save energy, because like you're saving so much time by typing LOL instead of laugh out loud. And I just find this so interesting because, well, obviously I don't know if like LOL developed on Twitter, but I'm just using it as an example to show you how the media influences the way we practice language, the way we practice communication. But because of our demand to communicate, the platforms also develop. So, yeah, I just find this fascinating. And yes, all of this started because, all this rant started because of Harry Styles, but it's okay. So, what do I think of the album? I have to say, now, please, Harry's, I'm a fellow belonger to the community. Belonger is not a word. Doesn't matter. It's not my first language. Who gives a shit? My ankle is killing me. Oh my god. Oh, so now my hip joint just, I don't know if my microphone caught this. Never mind. So, um, this album, Harry's, please don't hate me. For me, uh, at the very first listen, so when it came out on midnight, I was like, should I listen? And then I started listening to American Girls immediately, without listening to Aperture. Is that how you pronounce it? I still don't know the lyrics to the song. And yes, it came out, I want to say in January. I still don't know the lyrics, but like it's just a vibe. And I'm waiting for my knee to completely heal so that I can go running listening to that song, because honestly, not everything has been bad. I did manage to go running this week for the first time since my injury, but my knee started hurting. And because I promised myself that I will listen to my body and not put pressure on it for once, I stopped running immediately. So I managed to squeeze in a 10-minute run, and I did manage to listen to that song by Harry Styles. But like, you know what I mean? I want to go for a long run and just listen to that song and all the things she said, and just like the entire Heated Rivalry soundtrack. Anyway, so that's like a story for another time. So this album for me, when I started listening to it during midnight, I have to say that I listened to half of the song, American Girls, and then I stopped it. And the reason I stopped it is because I had to wake up in a few hours for work. And I just, despite everything I thought would happen, I could contain my excitement for a few hours simply because exhaustion was taking over me. Um, but I also wanted, like, I just feel like I didn't do the album justice to start listening to it from the second song, because like I mentioned earlier in this episode, the order of the songs is extremely deliberate, and it tells a story, and it wouldn't do the story justice if I just started reading. Like, you don't read a book, like you don't read first the epilogue of a book. or you don't start a book from chapter 7. You start from the beginning. You're introduced to the piece, and then you familiarize yourself with the characters and whatnot, and blah 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 blah. um and I'm sure that there's a lot of Swifties, like, not a lot of people watch the podcast, but like, from the few people that are going to watch this clip, I'm sure there's Swifties. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, explaining why order of songs in an album matters, because come on. Like, we've been taught by Miss Taylor Swift that order is important. Um so for me, at first, when I listened to it in the morning, was I could tell from the beginning that it was going to be a grower, not a shower. And what I mean by that is that I feel was going to be the type of album that doesn't necessarily grab me during the first listen, but the more I listen to it, the more I'm going to like it. And lo and behold, that was true. So I started listening to the album um, as I was walking to work. And the thing is, I've told you this before, I struggle so much to comprehend lyrics without first reading them. Like, to me, it's just like, oh, we're vibing. Like, yeah, they're saying some words, but they're in gibberish. So, like, it does not concern me. And if you show me a song in the English language and I've never heard that song and you're like, what are they talking about? I invite you to take my Cambridge certification and shred it into pieces. Because what I'm displaying in terms of knowledge of the English language when I'm shown a song for the first time is not the C2 level that I have. And yes, I'm not saying this to be like, oh my God, I have C2, but it's like, girl, considering that, like, you have that level, you should be able to comprehend lyrics. And considering that my day to day existence is in English, in terms of relationships, work, university, podcasting, like art creation. Although, you know what? Yeah, Dirty Martini is an art form, and I don't take no for an answer. I don't give a shit. Um, so I should be better at decoding lyrics. But I just feel like, because when I was little and I was listening to songs in the English language without speaking English, I just, since then, my mind just equated song in English equals gibberish. Um, and that's very unfortunate. But this time around, I just hyper focused to be able to understand the lyrics from the get go. Because, like, it is also the thing is with lyrics, it's very important the way the artist enunciates the words. So I'm proud to say that quite a few of the lyrics I understood, which is incredibly sad to say. I know. I'm going to do better. I promise you. I promise you. It's just like sometimes when I don't get a lyric, I'm like, oh, fill in the gaps, and then I just like memorize it with my filling of the gaps, and it's just completely wrong. Like, do not get me started on the way I sing Midnight Sun. Like, that is high-key disrespectful to the penmanship of Zara Larson, the diva of all divas. Um, but like, the lyrics are none of my concern. It is the vibes that I care about. So I listened to this song, and I have to admit, at first, it didn't necessarily grab me. I have so I have to respect the fact that this is something that was that is completely different from anything Harry Styles has ever put out in terms of sound. Lyrics are reminiscent of previous Harry lyrics, previous One Direction lyrics. Um, But it is the sound that I was like, oh, I knew we were going for disco. It's literally in the title, but like, this is not necessarily what I was expecting. Cause like, it wasn't disco like ABBA type of disco, but like, it wasn't necessarily house, like in terms of, I don't know, like, doopty, 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 doopty on the beach. So I was like, what are we talking about here? And then I feel like it didn't really resonate with me at first, and I was like, oh no, is this going to be just like another, I'm sorry, should I say it, should I say it, I thought it, should I say it, I thought about like, oh, is this just going to be the life of a showgirl for me? Because like, the life of a showgirl, I've listened to only two songs from, like, a few times. I love Taylor Swift, but like, I'm just, I just, it was not my album. I can still respect it as an art form. I can still respect all the lyrics, all the effort that went into it. But like, not every single thing, no matter how much you like an artist, is meant for you. Because like, sometimes an artist does not create things for their audience, for their listeners, for what their listeners want, what their listeners need. They create an art for themselves. And I genuinely believe that the life of a showgirl was that for Taylor. Like, she created it for herself. And I thought, oh my God, is this going to be like another the life of a showgirl that I'm just not going to be able to resonate with, and I'm just going to be left with like this anticipation of a new album that just is not going to click with me, which is totally fine. Like, not every single thing is meant for everyone. Like, that's okay. I'm not discrediting the musicality or like the artistry of the life as a showgirl. It was just not my thing. So I genuinely thought that from the first few songs that this was going to be me with Kiss All the Time Disco occasionally, because, and I was quite saddened by this at first, because if you know me, you know I love Mr. Harold Stylinson. Like, I've been waiting, I've been longing, I've been dreaming for a new album by him. But then something happened, and that something means Coming Up Roses. Is that what it's called? I believe yes. Um, Started playing, and I just immediately started levitating. I immediately, my mind, my feelings, my heart, my brain, my soul was drawn into this album, and I locked in. Because up until that song, I realized that I had not been paying attention to any of the songs. They were just as background noise to my very long and very loud, because of constant reconstruction, walk to work. And the second that song started playing, something unlocked in me. And I started listening, and then pop came in. Pop is such a banger. And then it was like smash after smash, banger after banger, hit, like hit after hit. And I was like, Harry, you have done it again. And then when, is it Paint or Painting by Numbers? So that song, when it came on, to me, that was while Coming Up Roses was the song that grabbed me the first. This song was the one that really just took my heart out, bit into it, chewed a piece off, chewed a little bit, and spat it out. Because this was the only song on my first listen of the entire album that I replayed twice before continuing on to the next song. And I don't know why that song really stuck with me that much. And when he said not even 33, I obviously, mind you, I have not dived deeper into what the lyrics mean and what the lyrics actually are. Uh, but when I heard Not Even 33, and I was like, damn, bro, is this about Liam? Because it is a very sad song, and it's a very beautiful song. And I just want to say that for Coming Up Roses, is it is that the song? I'm so sorry. I promise you, like, for every other of his albums, I know those by heart. Like, you can wake me up in the middle of the night when I'm 90, and I will be able to tell you the order of the songs and every song. Uh, but this one, it's just new, and I've not really engaged with it yet. So please forgive me. I will rectify this because I'm hooked. I'm hooked. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Um, but so when that song started, Coming Up Roses, when Coming Up Roses started playing and my soul started levitating, I just immediately thought, this song belongs in La La Land. This songs must be included in the soundtrack of a movie that is going to make me cry my eyes out, that it's going to ruin my homeostasis of how much I'm going to cry, and it's going to keep me dehydrated internally from how much I've cried, but it's going to hydrate my skin from all the tears and all the moisture. And that's how you knew you've hit it. Like, that's how you know you've done it. And I applaud Harry because that is a beautiful song. Just the sound of it to me is nothing that he has put out before. And it's just so, I want to say magical. I think magical is the word I want to use to describe it. And it was beautiful. It was just so, and I, apart from the lyrics, I mean the actual sound of it. It was just so different from everything he's put out, and I was mesmerized. And then throughout the day, I kept on listening to it more and more and more because, like, obviously, I'm supposed to be playing a specific radio station at work, but I do be playing my own playlists because, come on, let's be I'm not getting paid enough to play, like, I know my manager is listening to this and he'll text me and be like, you're literally getting paid enough to play the radio station because that's part of your job. I know, diva, but like sometimes I do be wanting to like shake ass to Gasolina while making fast food, okay? Okay, and I know you get it. I know you get it. Cause like we have vibed before to Daddy Yankee, okay? Okay. So, um, yeah. And I just feel like the more I listen to this album, the better it gets. And I'm not ashamed to say that it didn't grab me from the first time because, for example, I remember very vividly when Harry's House dropped because I remember where I was when it was announced. I remember I was reading a book, but what book was I reading? I don't remember exactly. But I was reading a book. I was on this bench in a park, and when he announced Harry's House, I was like, "Oh my god, is he coming out with like a furniture line? Is this like the new thing of pleasing that we're doing lamps and like bedside tables?" And when I realized it's an album, I cried. I cried, you cried, we all cried. That's it. Um, and when that album released, I was again going to university. Well, now today I was going to work, but doesn't matter, it's the same direction. Um, and basically I remember again struggling to comprehend lyrics, but Harry's House grabbed me from the first go. And when Matilda started playing, I was a puddle because there is just something about Harry's penmanship that I cannot really put into words, but it plays so beautifully the strings of my soul and my heart, and it creates this symphony and this melody that I didn't know existed within me. And it makes me connect with it on such a spiritual level. And you will never catch me not listening to Fine Line. Fine Line, the album, but Fine Line, the song, one of the most beautiful songs ever put out, in my opinion. Just there are a few songs he has out on his albums. Like, I don't know why I'm always drawn to those sad songs, but I tend to be a very positive person, and I do love shaking ass to Zara Larson. I don't get me wrong, I love happy pop music. Dua Lipa, I do like, I just like the second Dua Lipa comes on, like I become this beast. Um but I tend to be drawn to sadder songs. I don't know if it's because of this sadness within me that I suppress from time to time, or like, no, let's not say suppress because that implies that it's constantly there, that just grows from time to time. Although that now implies that there is a seed of sadness in me, but there is a seed of any emotion in all of us. Put a price on emotion. I'm looking for something to buy, bitch. Um, yeah, and I'm always drawn to the sadder songs on albums. And that's why, for example, Folklore by Taylor Swift, but also Evermore, to me, those are her. And this is coming from someone who abuses the replay button on 1989. Those are her two best albums. Those, I feel like I'm drawn to sadder songs because I'm not saying that the happiness and poppy and the upbeat songs is fake, but like, I feel like it is in the sadder songs that we actually get the raw emotion, the actual human experience of the artist. We get the art in the saddest songs because to me, those songs are very reminiscent of poetry. And I'm not saying that the poppy upbeat songs are not poetic or whatever, they can very well be. But there is just something about a good sad song, like a good sad song that makes your eyeballs just become a puddle. There's just something about it that just I'm drawn to innately, naturally. I just gravitate towards that. And that's why, for example, Fine Line, Falling, masterpieces. On Harry's House, Boyfriend, Love of My Life, Matilda, Little Freak. Ugh, what was that sound? New vocals, Tim, for you for that week. You're welcome. Uh, on Harry Styles, the album, Sign of the Times, or like Ever Since New York. Do not get me started on Ever Since New York or From the Dining Table. And now on this album, this new album with Coming Up Roses and Painting by Numbers, I love the other songs. They did initially sound very similar, and I struggled to differentiate them. And I think this is what contributed to these two sadder songs standing out because they had such a different sound to them from this gallery that this album represents. And I am excited for this new Harry Styles era. I am excited. Like, just guys, prepare to be sick of me. Prepare to be sick of me because I am going to make that album my entire personality. We're so back, baby. We are so back, and there is no going back. Um, I'm excited. I'm excited. I love an all well-rounded album. I didn't used to be an album person. I used to be only like I used to only listen to singles or like to a song from an album that I liked but wasn't a single. I didn't really used to listen to albums, and then I do genuinely believe it goes back to Adele and that lecture, but ever since that like realization that albums are curated to tell a story, when an album comes out, I listen to the whole album. I don't listen just to the um singles. And I think this has really made me appreciate, because I love music. I really love like, please, I just want you to know that today, when you go to bed, I don't care if you're religious or not, thank some sort of a god that I have not been endowed with the talent of singing well. I cannot sing for the life of me. Be thankful for that, because I don't shut up now. I sing all the time. If I had the ability to actually sing, I would be unbearable. And I'm barely bearable now for many people, but that's okay. So, um, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. And ever since, so I, despite being extremely musically disabled in terms of the way I sing, even though when I was little, I did go to the, so in Bulgaria, we have these national competitions in many scientific fields that are called like literature Olympics or mathematics Olympics. I went to the music Olympics, bitch, and I went on national level, and I have a trophy of a music note in my, I don't even know where it is, but I have that because, and it was purely theoretical. If they heard me sing, they would just be like, please shut up and never speak ever again. Um, but I'm fascinated with music, and it pains me deeply that I'm so musically deprived, like in terms of how I'm unable to sing on an instrument, although, like, I bought the guitar, but I've not been able to play a lot because I've been depressed, but it's okay. And I'm not able to sing. I mean, I do sing, but I shouldn't, for everyone's, like, to save everyone's ears, I should not sing. So I had that appreciation of music even before I started listening to albums as a story. But then the second I started listening to whole albums are so back. I don't give a shit what anyone says of like, oh yeah, like now no one creates albums because what sells more is singles that are released every 3 to 6 months to keep the attention of the audience and just to generate more money. No one creates albums because they're not financially viable. Bullshit. Bullshit. Albums are so back, albums are so meaningful, and I never want albums to stop being put out. I don't give a shit about singles. Give me an album. Give me a good, well rounded story of what you've emotionally been through as an artist, and encapsulate that experience, that human experience, through your art form. And the second I started listening to albums, like first note to the very last note, I feel like I have an added layer of appreciation of this art form, which I know is something that's so incredibly obvious, but as someone who had not listened to albums extensively, the second I started listening exclusively to albums, I was a changed woman. And I don't plan on going back. I don't plan on going back because albums where it's at. Albums is where it's at, and I will not take a no for granted. I don't give a shit if they're as financially viable. I don't give a shit if they're as marketable. I don't give a shit if they're as clickable. I don't give a shit if like a song is underrated on the album. Just know I have listened to that song, and I care about that song, and I care about the order of your album and the songs, and I care about the all well-rounded story. And I think that we as consumers, as art connoisseurs, as just fans, should leave space for artists to tell a story that goes beyond a TikTok dance, that leaves a space for them to encapsulate a human experience in the form of a song. And as if it's uh as long as as far as I'm concerned, I am leaving you like all the space you need in the world to create albums. They are so necessary for artists, but also for us as fans, as consumers, as fellow humans, to understand what another person has gone through and has encapsulated, because more likely than not we have gone through something similar and we can relate, and we would not be able to go into the nitty gritty and the small overlookable details if we only care about marketable music created by a formula so that it's catchy and picked up by algorithms and so that it tops charts. Sometimes it is the most underrated songs on albums that are the most meaningful, in my opinion. But I know that may be a hot take. It's just like, I feel like, because I know there's people out there who are listening to this who do not like Harry Styles. This episode was not me trying to shove Harry Styles down your throat. I promise you, this was meant as, honestly, I don't know what it was meant for, like, well, as what it was meant as, like, I just like, this had absolutely nothing to do with what I wanted to talk about. Like, my book, with my notebook with the notes, I have 5 pages of notes, front and back, as Ross Geller would say, of what I wanted to talk about, and none of this had anything to do with Harry Styles. But that's a problem for future me. So this episode was not meant for me to shove Harry Styles down your throat. It was meant, I don't know, it didn't have a purpose, so let's come up with one. Or maybe it doesn't need to have a purpose in order to be created. Maybe art just demands to be created to serve, I want to say serve a purpose, but that's literally against the point I'm trying to make. Maybe in and by itself this episode may not serve any purpose or have any meaning, but it brought me joy. And if that's everything it brings me, then I think that's more than I could ever ask for. But yeah, I will be listening to that album more. I'm excited to dive deeper into the lyrics, into the sound, because there I am, if you want me to sing, again, don't want me to sing because I sing terribly, but I can sing every single word from Fine Line. I have been listening to that album for, when was it released? 2019. What the year is it? Oh my god, 7 years ago. That's crazy. So for 7 years I've been listening to this album, at times exclusively, for months. And there are still things I discover about this album, and little sounds that I had overlooked before, or little intonations that were so intentional but just like went under my radar. So I am excited to like remove that media analytics. You know what? I don't want to remove that media literacy and media analytics hat ever, because I think it is definitely adding a layer of appreciation towards the efforts that went into the creation of the art form as a form of media. But I am ready to just like pull up my sleeves and get into it emotionally. But until I do that, I want to thank you all so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know what I said. I said a lot of stuff, yet I said nothing. So I at least hope you found this a nice filler for your day. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, go wish a woman happy International Women's Day. If you're a woman, Happy International Women's Day. Go hug your friends, hug your moms, hug your sisters, hug your daughters, hug your, did I say moms? Hug your aunts, hug strangers, hug colleagues, and thank them for bringing life into this world. Although the world is going to shit, but like, women, I love you. And it's, again, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's a privilege to be a woman. It comes with a lot of challenges, but the pros definitely overweigh the imposed on us cons. And I am proud to be a woman. I was very scared of becoming a woman because girlhood was presented as something to be scared of, as something to be ashamed of. But I won't dive into this now. I just want to say that it is a privilege and an honor to be a woman. So this goes out to all women. I love you, women. Mwah. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye.